2.
Good morning, everyone who is present at the MES headquarters or elsewhere and with us today. Um, and I see that I either by uh, looking at the people in the conference room and other people who are from coming on Zoom, I see that all of our board members are present and accounted for. So we have the roll call. I don't think we need to do it because I've seen it. Um, and we're going to start this morning with a gentle lady, Miss Valerie Coleman with RSM, who is going to talk to us about the FY21 financial audit results. So, ma'am, if you would go ahead and take the floor.
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. Going to share. Hopefully everyone sees this. Perfect. So again, my name is Valerie Coleman. I am the engagement lead for the financial statement audit, as well as other reports that we complete for MES. I'm very happy to be here with you to help you, as those charged with governance, with your oversight responsibility and provide you an overview of where we stand today. I did have a chance to meet with the audit committee, provided a little bit more of an extensive presentation, and today we'll provide you a summarized overview overall. So to begin with, the status of the audit. Currently, our opinion on those financial statements is expected to be unmodified, and it will be dated as of the date of the completion of 3 following items. 1, just to level set, unmodified is basically a clean opinion. We did not find anything that would need to be reported to you or issue an adverse or modification in the opinion. We will be completing our reviews, including what is called a concurring partner review. All of our audits are completed by the engagement team all the way up to the partner side. And we have a second person exclusive of the engagement that comes in and performs a quality control review to ensure all has been completed in accordance to the professional standards. So we are in the process of that completion at the moment. We'll have a conversation with management as it relates to any sort of subsequent events that we would need to disclose as of a certain date, which will be the date of the opinion. And also we'll ask management to present a representation letter where they attest certain representations as it relates to the financials and their internal controls and so forth. So once those 3 are completed, we will issue a report. Additionally, we perform a report on the Uniform Grant Guidance, which is basically the federal awards audit. We are expected to issue these subsequently after the OMB issues their addendums. Basically, in the professional standards world, in their accounting profession at the moment, we follow the OMB guidance as it relates to how to audit the federal audits and the federal grants. So they are expected to issue 2 addendums, and what we've done in the professional standards is kind of pause in case there's anything else in those addendums that relate to the grant awards you've received at the service that we'd need to go ahead and audit. That's pretty much standard the last 2 years, pretty much due to the influx of federal funds coming through. They've had to issue subsequent addendums as it relates to what they want the professional standards to look at. So we have completed our work as it relates to that up to this point, and we'll wait for those addendums, which should shortly be released in the next month or so. And just to remind everyone what our professional responsibilities are, we do complete our audit under standards generally accepted in the United States. I always like to also mention that our audits are designed to obtain reasonable rather than absolute assurance about whether there's any sort of misstatements caused by error or fraud. It involves performing certain procedures in order to design our tests. So we do extensive conversations as it relates to the risk assessments of the organization, the internal controls of the organization. We do not opine on the internal controls. So we're not here to say that the internal controls are effective. That's a different type of audit, but we take that into consideration in assessing our risk assessments. We issued a separate communication regarding the scope and timing of our audit. And during that time, we identified certain risks that we deem to be material or has an opportunity for a material misstatement to arise. The first 2 I always like to note are pretty standard in every audit. We always worry that management has the ability to circumvent controls. That's what that means, management override of controls. and there's any sort of fraudulent revenue recognition. So that's par for the course in every single audit as it relates to 2 significant risk of materials misstatements. However, the last 3 are pretty, they're not necessarily standard, but it's unique to the organization. This is not unique for governments. This is pretty standard in the government side of things. So the first 2 are OPEB liability and pension liability. So that utilizes experts, actual experts, to help them put together what they think the liability will be as it relates to these 2 categories. The assumptions and the inputs that the experts are utilizing to come up with that liability number is reviewed by us, by our internal experts, so that we can kind of say, yes, this liability makes sense and is reasonable. And it's the same with the landfill closer. That's pretty much pretty normal for MES. We do utilize an expert as well to take a look into the inputs. We take a look into their expert and who they've hired to provide their liability numbers for reasonableness. Is the expert has the qualifications to perform that? So that's all part of our audit as it relates to what we review. There were no issues that we noted, but again, knowing the organization and knowing that these are key numbers, we do have a little bit of a heightened focus on these areas. Some significant matters we've discussed with management is really working with the financial statement disclosures, the valuation and disclosures of the OPEB, as we noted, under certain GASB standards, as well as coming and bringing in the pension liabilities under another GASB 68. Those numbers are coming from the state, so we work with management as to get their proportion for MES on their books, as well as conversation on any impact on policies, controls, and again, working under the new work from home environment just to see if anything changed that we should be aware of. So those were matters we discussed. There were no audit adjustments made to the original trial balance presented to us at the beginning. So what that means is we came in, we were provided a trial balance, and there were no adjustments that were needed to be made to come up to the corrected balance. And we are not aware of any uncorrected misstatements as well that we would bring to you to say, hey, we've looked at this. They're not necessarily material, but they are at a point that we should let you know that we decided not to go ahead and correct because the materiality of it was not deemed significant. So there's nothing of that nature to bring forth to your attention. And these last few items is pretty much part of the required communication. So for example, the first one is preferability of accounting policies and practices. So under GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, there's certain circumstances where management may elect among alternative accounting practices. So if there was something that came up, we would let you know there are 2 choices. Management went with choice A instead of B. There was nothing of that nature to bring up. Everything was in accordance to GAAP. There was no decision of which choice to go with a particular accounting issue. Alternative treatments discussed with management. Again, there were no alternative treatments within GAAP for accounting policies or anything related to material items that were discussed. So there's nothing in that sense to bring up as well. We did not have any disagreements with management. And in fact, everything worked pretty smoothly. If we asked a question, we were provided the support. We had access to everyone in the organization. We made inquiries with a lot of individuals within the organization, and that was without any issues. Consultations with other accountants, that's pretty much what we kind of call opinion shopping. Let's say I had a conversation with management and I basically said, this is really how we will conclude. Management didn't like the answer and would go to another firm or another accountant to see if they can get a different opinion. We are not aware of any consultations of that nature that transpired. And lastly, again, significant difficulties encountered in performing the audit. We are again in a remote environment. Nothing of that translated into any sort of difficulties in dealing with management when performing the audit. And as it relates to findings, we are required to report any findings under Yellow Book. That's the government auditing standards. As it relates to any federally funded programs, currently, as of to date, there's nothing to report. We are, again, waiting for those addendums to see if there's additional procedures to be performed, but there's no compliance findings that we need to relay to those charged with governance at the moment. And the last other item I wanted to relay is there are several reports after the issuance of the financials we'll work with management in completing: the schedule of indirect costs, as well as the schedule of 6 customer report of indirect overhead costs. So once we're done with the financials, we'll start working with these 2 reports as well. And that is pretty much it. I will stop for any sort of questions at the moment.
Thank you very much. And there may be questions, but before that, I wonder if Ms. Heller, who is our chair for audit, might add something to what Ms. Coleman has told us. So, Ms. Heller?
Thank you. I would just like to say thank you to RSM and to Ms. Coleman for a professional job well done. And I'm looking forward to seeing the final audited financial statements.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We did review, it was a little bit more in-depth. We reviewed this yesterday in the audit subcommittee, and there were a couple of questions, but everybody was very pleased with the result thus far.
And Ms. Coleman, are there any questions at the moment?
No, I am all set. Thank you so much for your time. And again, I'll work with management to get us to the finish line. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll proceed. The next matter is the approval of minutes. Minutes have been shown to all of the members of the board, and we had an opportunity to look at them. And so now I'll ask if there are any objections, corrections, or discussions by the board members. All right, hearing none, and under the revised rules of Robert's rules, we do not need to have a specific quorum on it, but everybody here has nothing to say against it, so therefore it will stand. All right. The next thing we have is very nice, and it involves the Inspire Award. It's going to be presented by two of our people, and I see Ms. Dominar in there. So she is the managing director of dredging and restoration rather. And then we have Melissa Slatnick, and where is she? Is she there? Yes, there you are. Okay, good. All right. And she is in charge of environmental services technicians. So, ladies, if you would start, let's see, Ms. Dominar, would you prepare? Ready to start?
Thank you. MES is pleased to announce an Extraordinary Service Inspire Award to Bill Basinski, John Altman, Steve Mastro, Mapa Gonarantne, Ricky Bradford, Vernon Kirk, and Delonte Kent for priority repairs at the Masonville Cove Environmental Education Center. In early August, MES client M.MPA, Maryland Port Administration, requested replacement of the decking, framing, railings, stair treads, and aquarium base cabinets at the Education Center prior to a large public engagement event for the Urban Wildlife Conservation Celebration on September 25th. All contacted vendors needed extensive lead time, which would not meet the completion date. With some research, the Masonville Cove team was able to find and order materials to replace the decking, railing, stair treads, and the majority of the framing within the client deadline. Mr. Basinski evaluated available retail aquarium base cabinets and determined that a higher quality alternative could be constructed by crafting cabinets from solid wood that would withstand the frequent contact of the students in public visits. The Masonville Cove's team ability to create and execute a plan of action allowed MES to successfully meet the client's needs. Additionally, they completed the job in-house and with significant cost savings to the client. The team also received many accolades from the client for their responsiveness and the quality of the end product. And as you can see on the slides, you can see the team as well as the pretty cabinets and the excellent work that they did in the decking. And I was lucky enough to go out and see it. It looks great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dolliner. And we have with us Cindy, who led the project, engineer on the project. He'll also get some accolades later that I'll mention. And some people want electronic deposit, but we have an actual check mark. And we can get a picture. Oh.
Next.
Secondly, MES is pleased to announce an Extraordinary Service Inspire Award to Robert Natarian, Jerome Lucky, Jamal Downs, Kelly Bender, Dave Hollins, and Darius Willie for their effective site management and maintenance at a facility. This group comprised of teammates from the Environmental Dredging and Restoration Group, the Water Wastewater Group, and the Technical and Environmental Services Group provided extraordinary services in support of an operation at an industrial site along the Tapsco River. They were charged with operating and repairing and maintaining the large site comprised of a network of buildings, water collection, and treatment equipment. When this group reported to the project site, the grounds, buildings, and equipment were in a state of considerable neglect and disrepair. The team spent considerable time and effort identifying a multitude of issues that required attention and worked together to systematically correct and mitigate the site issues. Throughout this project, they had to adapt to changing conditions and finding solutions to multiple problems and emergencies. They kept continued communications with all project stakeholders to solve numerous unexpected crisis situations safely, and they did so with a positive attitude and approach while keeping up with their considerable other job responsibilities at their other facilities. I want to take this opportunity to thank this team. Thank you.
We have the team here. Please stand up. You guys gotta come all the way over here. We have a certificate. They already, oh, I'm over. Kelly, oh, what is your report? This is luck. This is luck. You're not Dave Holland. Gary? Yes, sir. Hey. Thank you very much. Good picture. Oh, yeah. There you go. All tours at Cox Creek, this is the man.
Yeah.
Just for you.
I need to come out.
Thank you all. Oh, and yours. Okay.
We have Ms. presentation from Ms. Slatnick, is that correct?
Yes. Thank you.
Right
Good morning.
ahead.
I am proud to virtually introduce Timothy Sauter, Dwayne Biles, Ryan Demagard, Robert Deshawn, as well as Mr. Derek Day, who is in person here, to represent a group of 5 mechanics from the BWI Airport Maintenance Team who are receiving an Extraordinary Service Award today. In late September, this team conducted emergency repairs to the main water line at Martin State Airport, which supplies most of the tenants. The emergency repair required replacement of the main backflow assembly located on the site's primary fire protection line and prevents the reverse flow of water that could contaminate the potable water system. The team worked on the emergency repair from 2 p.m. one day straight through 6 a.m. the following day to ensure uninterrupted operation of the domestic water system. The emergency repair was successfully completed outside of the team's normal duties and working hours and included the added challenge of maneuvering the 1,200-pound assembly within a tight workspace. I also just want to mention that the team did not receive overtime compensation for this 16-hour effort due to the timing of the repair, which occurred over 2 8-hour shifts. So it was 2 8-hour shifts, so there was no overtime. So they are very deserving of this award. And I just want to say personally thank you.
I don't see how that works. Yeah, if you work a double, usually it's.
It's because, well, he might be able to explain it better.
16, you can go 16. Work
If it's 2 days.
16. Yes.
So if it's 8 hours one day, 8 hours the next day, and this repair happened to fall between 2 days of 8-hour shifts.
Yes.
So they ended up working 16 continuous hours
You can't go past 16 hours.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Need to schedule our emergency.
Oh, it's always, it's always.
See, this is, he says you need to schedule it, and I say you need to move.
Sorry.
Remain calm.
Well, thank you. I think this shows the dedication that our people at MES have shown for so many years, and it keeps on happening, and I think it's just terrific. So thank you very much. Now, at the head of the table, you will see a young lady, and she is the secretary, or the state treasurer, rather, of this entire state of Maryland. So if you don't have enough money coming to you, call her, because she's in charge of all that. She'll take care of you. I have been asked to say a few things about this wonderful lady who unfortunately is leaving us. As she is leaving her post as the state treasurer, she will be much missed. But I was asked if and I was given the honor of speaking to all of you about the honors of Secretary Kopp. I wondered where I was going to start. Now, after all, in the annals of our state's existence, there have been very few people more remarkable than Secretary Kopp. She has lived a life so dedicated to honor, duty, and love of Maryland and its inhabitants that had she been around, Leonard Calvert would have hired her as governor when he landed at St. Mary's in 1634. I'm pretty sure of that. Then he could have sailed back to England without worrying about who would take care of the colony. To get more detail about the Secretary's accomplishments, I thought, well, where should I go? So nowhere other than the Maryland Manual, right? And many of you I know are aware of the Maryland Manual. Some of them are in there. So it's not a better place to look for the works of people such as the Secretary. And so I found and I read the manual's accomplishments of Secretary Kopp. It listed all of her civic works and other undertakings that she has had in her career in virtually every conceivable role one could imagine. In fact, as I read its 3 pages with tiny, tiny little print about that big, I realized it would be impossible for me to read all of them to you in the time that I was allotted. So I thought, well, how am I going to otherwise talk about the astounded, wonderful work of our Secretary? So I settled on telling everybody in a numeral way how many times Secretary Kopp has worked for the state, for the sake of our state and nation. And here are the numbers I put together. Now, I'm going to say that my math might not be right. In fact, it hasn't been since the 3rd grade. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm not working at MES, because I would make anything terribly off the record. But I think I've got it pretty right. So here we go. Starting with her work as secretary and coming on down as she leaves. She's leaving, I think, in 2022 at the very beginning or the very end of 2021, but anyway, too soon. So I looked at her work as secretary from her election starting in 2002 to the latest count that I could see. And the number of commissioned chairs she had chaired was 26 of them during this period of time. And then in addition, I saw the number of her offices as chair in other matters, such as task forces, commissions, and the like between 2002 and 2017, and that was 19 of them. Then in her capacity as member of the House of Delegates from 75 until 2002, I counted 20 matters in which then Delegate Kopp had participated. And then another 17 additional duties when during her time in the General Assembly was also on record. So all totaled, as far as my, and as I say, I might have missed one or two, but I think I'm right. So all totaled, this is 82 82 things that she had done that are in the manual, the Maryland manual. Absolutely amazing. And she has just been with a life devoted to this state and its people. And if Leonard Calvert were here, he'd agree with that for sure. I'm positive. So, wait a minute, finally, one other duty, and that was a member of the board of MES. So here to talk about that, I'll turn over to Dr. Glass. Dr. Glass, sir.
Thank you, Judge Smolkin. Treasurer Kopp, the first week I got this opportunity, we had an issue to discuss, and it was emblematic, I think, of your career that we might have been on opposite sides of a position, but we might have been, but we discussed it from a science and technical perspective, and I won your vote, I believe. So, and I made a commitment at that time to follow through with the statement that you made, and I think that I have in that space, and I think that it impacted state policy, just different perspectives. I can't imagine how many other issues over your 55-year career of state service you impacted, and I am honored and I feel immensely privileged, even though it was only such a short time of my service at this level to be interacting with you, to have worked with you. So the board is immensely thankful, even though it's been a short time. I know that you will be watching us, and and I know we will be able to seek out your counsel in this new stage.
Very, very kind. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Judge Walton, Dr. Glass, it's been a pleasure. This is one honor I never anticipated at all, service on this report, but it gave me the opportunity to learn about all the great work you all are doing and the potential for the future. For the future, I think looks much brighter, candidly, because of what MES is doing and the openness to innovation and the dedication not only to building plants but to the environment around it. You're going to be in the forefront, I think, of dealing with the environmental and climate problems of the next decade. And I'll be watching you from wherever I am. I thank you. Yes, I've made a career of disagreeing with people whom I admire and respect very much. Some of them for many years. I do thank you all. You're very kind and very generous, and I wish you the very best. And if there's anything I can do to help, just call on me. I look forward, I hope, to seeing a new treasurer in office by mid-December, by the special session of the general assembly. But we'll see.
So we got you for one more month at least.
Right? Yeah. Maybe, but in case not.
Well, thank you so much, and I think we ought to give our applause to our Thank you. So I think our next matter is to hear from our director and the director's report, Dr. Glass. Sir?
Thank you, Judge Smolkin. Staff is leaving because they don't want to hear the director's report. Next slide, please. I am happy to report that during the period of this expense report, neither I nor Deputy Director Furketic had any purchase card or reimbursement expenses. We also did not direct any expenses during the period of this expense report to other staff under our direction. Next slide. So before getting to this, although this slide can stay up, last month there were significant personnel changes in the leadership of the Technical Environmental Services. I would like to thank Mr. Jason Gillespie for 9 years of dedicated service in multiple roles in that group and others. Please allow me to introduce to you all Ms. Melissa Slatnick as the Acting Director of Technical Environmental Services. You met her earlier today as she presented the Spire Award. Ms. Slatnick has over 24 years of experience here at MES and was most recently the Acting Division Chief of Environmental Dredging and Restoration. And even though she is immensely needed with support for Maryland Department of Transportation, Maryland Port Administration, I'm extremely thankful for Ms. Slatnick being willing to step up in the test during this time. I have every confidence in her ability as a professional manager and environmental scientist, especially once I realized that we share an alma mater with Judge Schmoken as a Blue Jay. Now this slide is related to, I've given narratives for most of the past year and a half on engagement, but with an Eastern Shore tour and with more private sector entities, I guess, recognizing the openness of having conversations with me. These are all the engagements that occurred over the last month. So we just separated them between government entities, state or county or municipal, and then private sector entities. There are a lot of inspiring opportunities with some of those organizations. One that occurred just yesterday that I did not know was going to be on it, but I did have also a meeting with the Baltimore City Department of Public Works that manages both solid waste and wastewater treatment issues for Baltimore City and Baltimore County, Southern Baltimore County. And that was just an introduction to Director Mitchell. I'm thankful to Senator McCray for reaching out and getting that meeting with Director Mitchell, and I thought it was very positive. One note, the consulting firm KCI and I, Dr. Mehmet Baz from KCI, have been working on a way to support operators of the wastewater treatment plants in Baltimore City, and we're inching closer and closer to hopefully providing a program based on the operator in training program here at MES to support them and utilize some of our senior leaders in operations of water and wastewater from around the state. So happy to interact. Oh, one other project is very interesting is I worked with the Nature Conservancy and Opti when I was the Assistant Secretary at Maryland Department of Transportation, and we got this novel Smart Pond project off. So it was a public-private partnership agreement with Walmart, Opti, and the Nature Conservancy that provides private funding to advance TMDL credits, total maximum daily load credits for the Chesapeake Bay rule. MDOT was behind schedule and was paying an average of $175,000 per acre for TMDL credits. The Nature Conservancy partnership ended up lowering the cost to $37,500. MES received $2,500 per acre credit as a third-party certifier of the project. So MES's good name helps speed along the permitting process, and even before MDE has finished all permitting checkoffs, MES allows the client, MDOT, and the provider with the assuredness that the project will be permitted properly. So that project did finish successfully, and actually the Nature Conservancy has asked if MES would be willing to facilitate, sorry if this is a little, MDE has created an account, an exchange, a trade system for TMDL credits. Forest mitigation, wetland mitigation, and TMDL credits, NPDES permit, stormwater treatment, they all require the development of mitigation capabilities. MDTA reached out recently with issues of forest mitigation. Opti and the Nature Conservancy would like to interact with MES to act as a third-party certifier and connector of buyer and seller for MDE's trading program. MES has successfully done that service for the Maryland Department of Transportation, Maryland Port Administration. Maybe someday we'll take the MDOT off the front. But with the algal flowway at the Dundalk Marine Terminal. So, and again, that was something I did as assistant secretary, but it relates because MES is still managing that facility. So there are all these opportunities where we can further the investment from private dollars and the lowering of costs by the private sector planning ahead for those mitigations, MES acting as a broker for municipal and state clients that need to purchase the credits at a reduced cost to the citizens of the state. So that is very exciting. It just happened. The conversation just again started, and then they found 8 credits in Hagerstown that they have not sold because the contract closed. MDOT, and they'd like me to serve as a bridge. I would like to delegate that to Ms. Slatnick. Anyway, so that's just an example. Every single conversation. One other to note, since we have Senator County Executive Neal here, Epping Forest Waterworks reached out with a major problem. They are down the road from here in Anne Arundel County, and operations staff from Water and Wastewater has helped them move along. They have a consent decree, a consent order from MDE to work on their backwash that they're discharging to the Severn. Yeah. And the staff has really done an exemplary job, particularly Mr. Joe Wright, in furthering that support along. So
Every drop of water goes into 7 years.
Every drop. And so next slide. Along with the engagement with government entities, and I also obviously support our stakeholders and our clients. So this is an image of us doing the ribbon cutting at the optical sorter upgrade to the Prince George's County Materials Recovery Facility. Mr. Ford is here. Great job by him and his team. Ms. Diziagi and Mr. Toro for this upgrade. $6 million upgrade to the facility, and they should receive payback by upgraded sales value of the commodity within 5 years. We are working on, and Mr. Ford forwarded me last night, how does recycling support carbon credits? So we do all these things with our partners. We haven't gotten to the point where every change of technology that improves recoverability of carbon leads to us possibly being able to get carbon credits for it, but we don't do it currently. But we're upgrading that. That was a great event. I met the new director of Prince George's County Department of Environment, which will soon be possibly changing to the Department of Energy and Environment, following District of Columbia's lead. Andrea Kroons, a very talented young environmental attorney that came out of the federal system. Next slide. And then we have some, I have to, this is possibly the happiest moment of the entire report. And I'll read this one, since I did write this one up. After 6 years of efforts, the pilot Conowingo Dam dredging project has completed dredging of over 900 cubic yards of material. Many MES employees have worked on the project over the years, but I wanted to specifically thank Managing Director Doliner, Acting Managing Director Slatnick, Mr. Bill Bazinski, who is still with us, and Ms. Maura Morris. In addition, the project would not have been completed over this past year without the tireless work of Mr. Sean Coleman. Challenging projects of this type can only be successfully completed with a team that works in unison, and I am proud to work with all of you on this novel project. Thank you for all the work you've done. Next slide. And then really happy pictures with our board members and staff visiting Poplar Island, making a baseball pitch at the Prince George's County compost facility. That is food waste being composted in a pile. Madam Treasurer, we've got to get you out to that facility so you can see that. And again, that's another example of a carbon sequestering process that we don't take credit for in that carbon space. But we produced a successful project, and we closed the carbon loop with that facility and facility in Montgomery County as well. We are receiving a lot of attention lately for food waste composting in Mr. Ford's group from other municipalities throughout the state, including Baltimore City.
Can I say, I think that's a coincidence, but I go to farmers market over the weekend, and there are composting companies,
Yes.
companies
There are
that
private companies.
show up at all of them, and it just strikes me that all of a sudden, wherever I go, food composting, not just like in our backyard with the vegetables, but it is becoming the topic du jour. And I think you're right there, right at the right time. And again, one of my complaints about many of the state organizations and agencies is people don't know what we're doing, how much we're doing. But that is a terrific position to be in with this particular subject at this particular moment. I think people are just, for some reason, all of a sudden, at least in my area, attuned to it.
Yeah.
Dr. Class, who's keeping score of ultimately, in the big scoreboard in the sky of all these carbon transactions? Is there a third-party arbiter? Is this something the federal government's going to get into, or is it, how is this going to work? Because people are going to be generating these things, and then they're also going to be trading them, because there'll be some people that want them and some people that don't need them. And I was just wondering how that works.
So there are firms. Pure Earth comes to my mind, and we have Blue Source that is involved in REC credits, so the renewable energy credits. The issue is in the environmental space, are you doing it for some other reason, for some other mandate, and then therefore you might not get the credit. And it's not. We had this issue with the presentation on renewable energy and solar. That's not in policy yet to actually regulate it. So then right now it's an external system. But there are so many Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 100 companies, everyone making these pledges. Decarbonized shipping fuel, decarbonized airplane fuel. It's coming, but it's not robust. So we're trying to, we're working on our report that's required in the MES Reform Act to calculate our emissions and what we're doing now as a baseline, and then we can start moving forward with our partners to calculate the delta when we do something that's not based on other regulatory requirements.
Just seems to me like we need an honest broker, because when you get these very large companies who want to move forward on a project or something, and they're saying, we're doing a great job here, and we just eliminated X number of tons of whatever, somebody needs to validate.
Yes, and there are
because there are benefits to moving forward, and so you just want to make sure that the public gets the benefit.
The other thing that's becoming a topic du jour is double counting of
greenwashing.
and greenwashing. Yeah.
Yes, we'll work. So next slide. So Judge Schmoken, Director Wong, and so they might have not have known that their picture would make the highlights, but they took a nice tour of Seagirt and Dundalk Marina Terminal, and for some reason Mr. Tanner and Ms. Wong like the gap between them, but no COVID days. But those are the Supermax cranes. MES dredged the Seagirt Berth 3 so that ship could be there, and we're still working on the loop project for the port. It was a great day. Next slide.
I think Mr. Tanner was photobombing the group.
Actually, a lot of times they leave a space like that so you can Photoshop somebody.
Yeah. And we didn't Photoshop anyone out.
Louis Goldstein always told me when there's a picture taken, get as close to the center as possible, because that way they can't crop you out. and of course, that was before all this technology. Now they can do it no matter where you're standing.
And we had a great fall festival for staff, and Judge Schmoken's wife made, and she entertained the children with her puppets, and it was a great fall festival. It was a show of appreciation for employees through a long year and a half of COVID. Next slide. And now.
You can introduce him.
So sorry if I was remiss in my comments. Mr. Tim Barr is now the Managing Director for Water Wastewater. I guess he was hired in the last interim, but our months go so quickly. Mr. Barr has a lengthy career in the water wastewater industry, including work at WSSD, the Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission, and throughout the DC metro area. Latest of a consulting firm, and we're proud to have him here and join us. Sorry, Mr. Barr, for taking the space. And one last note before Mr. Coleman presents the final conflicts of interest policy, which we need to have approved today, is that MES did successfully submit an RFP to assess and prioritize stormwater devices throughout Charles County in support of the Charles County Resilience Authority, the first authority that can have its own private bonding or its own bonding separate from the county budget to meet some of the needs of climate change and resilience.
Would they create a fee in order to make themselves solvent?
Right now, as it was presented in the Baltimore Sun yesterday, they're funded through 1/3 of the county's American Rescue Plan of $11 million. 1/3 of that plan. But that's just a one-time.
Yeah, that's just a one-time thing.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to establish some sort of, if you're gonna float bonds, you gotta have a source of repayment that's continuing.
Yes, I agree. And thanks to Mr. Luke Page for his work as the lead on that proposal development. And now I'll turn it over to Mr. Coleman. Yes, it is Mark Bell.
Good morning, all. Before you is the final version of the conflict of interest policy for the Board of Directors of the Maryland Environmental Service. There was a draft policy that was circulated to you last month. There were some minor changes that were made to that draft policy, but nothing substantive. Essentially, the policy now provides that the Board of Directors, members of the board, may not have any personal interest in any transactions involving the agency. There is also a reporting requirement, which is essentially that members of the board will also have to file with the clerk of the board a copy of the financial disclosure statement that you all are required to file with the state ethics board. I'll also note that there is a provision in here that lays out when you as individual members of the board should recuse yourself from voting on matters which you or a family member may have a financial interest. There is not a requirement that the staff follow up in terms of checking these for you. So it is incumbent on each board member to personally monitor what particular financial transactions you may be involved with and how they might relate to actions or activities of MES.
I have a question.
Yes.
If we think that it could be some conflict, who would we approach with that?
You can contact my office, and either myself or another member of my office will work with you in trying to identify what the potential conflict may be. If there are any other questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
I just have one. I'm on the Board of Regents University system. I don't know whether you do something. We do MES maybe.
Oh, we do a lot of business with the university system.
So I shouldn't be on both sides of the county. If a university issue comes up, that's something that I should use myself. I mean, there's no financial interest, no personal. It's just board roles.
Let me suggest that we should talk about that outside of the meeting, about the specifics of that, because I would need to know a little bit more information about what your role is on the Board of Regents and what types of matters come before the Board of Regents.
Like private job. I just want to make sure.
All right, are there any other questions, discussions, et cetera, as to this matter?
We file with the Ethics Commission, right?
Yes.
So we can also consult with the Ethics.
Yes.
Thank you.
I would make it clear that this has been put together with regard to the July 1st beginning of our new our new statutory material that the General Assembly had given us. And this was something that had to be done, I think, not later than October, the end of October, which it is now. So I would like to ask if there are any other questions before we go forward, because I think the next thing to do is to seek a motion with regard to this to be our policy. So is there any question before we ask for that kind of a motion? All right, not hearing any. Does anyone wish among the not everybody, but all of the members of the board to make a motion with regard to taking this in midst as the conflict?
So moved.
So moved.
Excuse me. So moved.
Second.
Treasurer Kopp seconded.
All right. Any questions from anyone? All right. We'll take we now have, let's see, I think everybody has been counted. If you are in favor, please raise your hand. State your name.
With?
Marion.
Shelley?
Kopp.
Neil?
Oh, yes. All right, Mr. Neal. All right, that'll be noted. So we will, otherwise, we have a quorum, so therefore we will proceed. And thank you very much. And I want to thank the people that have put this together, including all of the people that we've had from the AG's office, including Sean and his folks. Thank you very much for putting this together for us as required by the government. All right. Thank you. And I think the next thing to do is to hear from the agency activities reports from the managing directors who wish to bring those to our attention. Who do we have on board on this?
So Judge Schmoken, this is just presented, it was presented in the board package. If there are any projects of concern, the managing directors are here to answer any questions.
Okay.
But we don't have anyone presenting the items.
All right, so we don't need to have a specific motions on it.
No, sir.
Does anybody see any problems there? There? All right, hearing none, I think we go to the next matter.
Can I ask a question, or is this inappropriate? No. I'm just curious about the geothermal energy services contract with MES.
So that actually is has been paused, and I've been in discussions because we can talk about it later, but it's not, it hasn't moved forward from that prospect perspective.
Anyone else?
For the board members present, it does not appear that there are any more questions. Judge Schmoken.
Any other questions with regard to that? I don't see any. All right, let's move on to the next matter, to the non-governmental entities. Ms. Eleanor.
Here, there's Martin.
Back on.
Yes,
duty.
hi. So we have a contract that's been existing for a long time with Honeywell, which was formerly Allied Signal. It's the operation of the closed landfill, Area 5 at Hawkins Point Hazardous Waste Landfill. We are the permit holder, and we also, this is actually state property. It's also we operate part of the property for MDOT MPA. Each year we submit an annual budget to Honeywell on December 1st for the preceding calendar year. So we have a estimated proposal for the budget for calendar year 22 at approximately 700,000. And according to the new Reform Act, if there's a new contract or change order greater than 250,000, we are to go to the Board of Public Works. There's a little confusion of whether this qualifies for that because it's not a change order. It's not a new contract. It's just the submittal of the budget. When we submit the budget, they do not submit any type of approval or anything. They just accept it unless they don't accept it. So I believe Ellen's going to the Board of Public Works today, staff, to discuss this, to see if this does need to go to the Board of Public Works or not. In the event it does, we're bringing this to the Board of Directors.
Yes, we have a meeting at 2 o'clock this afternoon with the board staff just to talk about this and a couple other projects, give them examples of the work that we're doing, talk about what they're going to want to see from us. Because this is something I think they're probably as confused as we are at this point when I talk to John Gontram. So, and we're going to see, and we're not really sure if new budgets are supposed to be presented or just new contracts.
Sean, do you have anything with regard to this?
Well, just, this is, as Marnie indicated, this is an existing agreement. You can see from the date where the contract number is. This agreement was actually originally approved in 1983 and has continued in effect. And in fact, it is under the terms of the agreement, has to continue in effect until there are no longer any regulatory requirements that these closed landfills be monitored. So this is an ongoing agreement. It's on state property. It's an extremely quirky type of an arrangement here, going back to the long tortured history of the Hawkins Point hazardous waste landfill. But in an abundance of caution, we're seeking the approval of the MES board in the event that ultimately there's a determination made that, yes, even if there is an existing agreement that involves new money coming to the agency, the Board of Public Works will have to approve that.
All right, do we need a motion on this today, or does it go
Yes,
forward?
sir, we do.
Yes.
We do need it today.
Yes.
Okay.
I would move approval. Bob Neal.
Second.
Secretary Neal has made the motion, and Treasurer Kopp has seconded.
All right, are there any questions? All right, we'll take a motion and we'll take the vote. All in favor, say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? None hearing any, the motion is passed. All right. Next matter, Mr. Patel. Be there somewhere. There you are. Hello,
Yes.
sir. Go right ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So the first slide here is the labor sales by the groups for the first 3 months ended September 30. As you can see that for this year, our total labor sales are lower than the same period last year. MES's nature of business is that we have some projects that keep going, some projects are short duration, come and go. So I'm not too concerned about, decreased labor sales because we adjust our control, our overhead expenses too. So overall, you will see in the later slides that at the end of the year, we are projecting to have a similar performance, the bottom line performance as the last year. But we are focusing on it. All the managing director of the groups are aware of, which projects are lowering the labor sales. But just want to bring it to your attention because that's our nature of business, where projects coming up. Next slide, please.
you live on. I'll be used to it.
So the change in net assets is the bottom line, all the revenues minus all the expenses, which is lower than last year also. As you can imagine, the labor sales are there, the recovery is less, but we are mindful of it and we are monitoring every month, see how we progress in the billable labor versus the expenses. So this year, actual change in net assets as of first 3 months was $1,375,000 versus last year at this time was $1.6 million. We will go into the holiday season, and there will be a lot of extra cost will be incurring by MES, and so this projection, you will see in the later slides that it will even out by the end of the fiscal year. Next slide. MES's total net assets as of September 30 is $31 million, and it is almost divided into half by the end of the fiscal year. Half of them are invested in our capital assets. The other half are part restricted, part unrestricted assets. But this is pretty consistent all the time, and it will stay within that range, of the $31 million. Next slide, please. So this is our budget versus actual based on, as I say, our business is unpredictable as far as the revenues are concerned. So usually at the end of the 3 months, we project what will be the fiscal year end. So we are expecting that the full budget year, the labor sales will be $34 million. If we do more, then, it is better, but at least, this is our target right now. So if we have a labor sales of $34 million, we'll have, and we have a reduction of overhead expenses. Some of the things we are doing right now is holding off certain overhead positions. Actually, for safety, we have increased the budget because that is our main concern, but we are currently dividing the overhead employees to cross-train in a couple of departments, but it's all temporary. And as you can see that we're going to have the overhead budgeted overhead variance, which is the total recovery minus the expenses of $2 million. Fringe, at this time, I anticipate that, we will have probably more fringe expenses than what we're going to recover fringe based on our labor. But it is not a major concern because it is never budgeted that we're going to make extra money from the fringe because the health insurances go up, all of our other fees goes up, and we are not cutting any budgets on the training. That is our focus. So, but this is our estimation as of now that, we will probably recover less fringe than our actual fringe expenses. So the bottom line is that at the end of the fiscal year, we are going to have the net result of $3.2 million increase in net assets, and as of now, we are at $1,375,000. But now the holiday season and all starts, there will be more additional expenses. So this is our yearly projection. Next slide. And this is the detail of it. We break it down to the group level. When we are saying that, what will be our billable labor, we have projections for all the water, wastewater, environmental dredging, all these groups. We have what we're going to recover based on our fixed overhead rate, what will be our expected overhead expense, and same thing for the fringe. And this is how the expected increase in net assets, that's our bottom line, $3.2 million is developed. Any questions on it?
Maybe this is the wrong place, but given the bottom line of $3.2 million, how do you then go back to the budgeting for employee incentives?
that is where it, so that money will be first determine whether MES needs any contingency fund. So, the board will be presented that is, we need some contingency fund, and then the remainder on board's approval will be awarded to the employees as a best plus, provided they meet, our targets and goals. Next slide. So this major accounts over 90 days, we are reporting to you what is in our books. And this is basically the same what you have seen it. Our efforts on collecting on it is continuous, and I don't see any major issues with it, which is the same, what we have reported. And if it is something that new comes up, we get on it right away. So I don't see any concerns on any of this. Any questions on this? Okay, that concludes my presentation.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that and all the work that you have been doing as long as I have been involved with this outfit. I think it's terrific. Thank you. Now, I'd like to call on Ms. Heller to talk about the audit committee report. If you have anything else other than what you had already mentioned, so please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we did meet yesterday morning, as I'm sure those of you that weren't in attendance have already figured out from our earlier conversation. We have three major items on the agenda. The first of which is what we've already discussed, is the financial audit that RSM is in the process of near completion. The second item was our internal auditor report, and that is performed. Our internal auditor is Ms. Winsome Condra, and she did go over the FY21 audit, which you can see that there is a summary there on your screen. We did discuss the FY22 internal audits that are currently in some phase of being completed. We did discuss the fraud hotline log, which, as you can see, there was a call, and it just happened to be not too long ago, last Friday. And then we did go over what the upcoming projects will be, FY23, FY24 risk assessment and audit plan. After we completed this part of our program, we did go over 4 financial policies. We discussed the meal reimbursement. Oh, okay. Meal reimbursement for overtime or emergency events policy, the expense reimbursement policy, management policy, and the IT acceptable use policy. We did not go over the fleet management policy, which will be presented and discussed in November, which hopefully will be in time for the required approval in December. Are there any questions about our meeting? Or if anybody that was present would like to add any other items to the summary, feel free. Thank you.
All right, hearing none, thank you very much.
Judge Vulcan, sorry. Well, I was just going to say that we are not in any way trying to rush the board. If the members that were not present at the audit committee want more time with these 4 policies, but I believe there was a vote out of the audit committee that they were comfortable with moving forward with it, and in which case, if we could vote on the 4 that were approved out of the audit committee, that would be wonderful. If anyone wants more time, we do have the time with another board meeting in November, but I just wanted to remind everyone that that was voted out yesterday. Unanimously.
Seller, you agree?
We did have a robust discussion on all four. It was a unanimous recommendation to approve all four.
All right. I'm not sure that we need, do we need a motion on this?
Yes, sir.
I think we do. All right. Are there any motions in favor?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor, please raise your hand. State your name. Fred Smolkin.
With,
Miller.
Anyone opposed? All right, it is carried. Thank you very much. And I think we'll go on to the next matter. If there's, is there anything else, Ms. Heller? No. All right, thank you. And thank you all very much from the Audit Committee. Now we have, good morning. So we have with us Ms. White. Ms. White, you're there somewhere.
I don't know if you can see me. I'm next to Hammond.
You want to come over?
Oh, there you are. There you are.
There. Can you see me?
Your head is just right there.
Can you guys see me?
He'll be very nice and let you sit
See.
right there.
She's driving.
Okay.
Totally, we have a total of 845 positions, 723 active positions, and happy to report that our vacancy rate after our pending new hires will be 6.22%, which is much lower than last month. And that is my report. Any questions?
All right, any questions? Short and to the point. Thank you very much, ma'am.
You're welcome.
All right, the next matter that we have on the schedule is to hear about the Human Resources Committee report from Ms. Wang, and you are there, ready to go. Thank you, ma'am. If you would go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. The Human Resources Committee met on October 21st to review 5 draft HR policies that were prepared by MES with kudos to Sean Coleman and his group and Dr. Glass. They did a terrific job. These 5 draft policies include the policy on incentive plans, bonus pay, and the best policy, the severance policy, the tuition reimbursement policy, the whistleblower policy, and the diversity, equity, and inclusion policy. These 5 policies had been circulated to the HR committee members by email on September 15 for review and comments. They were generally discussed at a prior HR committee meeting that was held on September 16th. They were, and at our October meeting, the policies were outlined and summarized in detail by Dr. Glass and Mr. Coleman. The policies were discussed by the HR committee members, which also include Secretary Neal. He was kind enough to join us. Comments had also been submitted by HR committee members prior to the October 21 committee meeting. And based on MES's presentation of the draft policies and the committee's robust discussions, the HR committee unanimously approved the draft policies for the board's consideration. Accordingly, at this time, on behalf of the HR committee, we recommend that these 5 policies be approved by the board today. These policies were also transmitted to all of the board members with your board packages on October 22 in advance of today's meeting. So with that, I think, Judge, you can request a motion.
Well, are there any questions that anyone wishes to give to Ms. Wang for discussion? Well, hearing none, I think, and I don't see any reason why we cannot put all 5 of these together in one packet. I think we can do that. So
That's
unless
correct,
there's
Your Honor.
anyone who is opposed to that. Well, hearing no opposition to it, is there a motion to bring in all of the 5
Mr.
matters?
Tanner has made the motion.
And second?
Second.
I'll second it. All right. Any discussion before we take the vote? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand, state your name. Kurt Smoking.
With,
Opposed? Hearing none, these matters, all 5 of them put together, have been voted on and are approved. Thank you very much, and thank you for all of the work that has been done on this. I know it's been a lot of work, and I think what we have seen and heard just in the last few minutes or few hours that we've seen, the people that are working so hard on this for audit and for H&R are really doing a fantastic job. And thank you all very much. Okay, I think our next point is to find Miss Crosby there. Miss Crosby, are you there somewhere?
Yes, I'm here.
There you
Good
are.
morning.
Oh, you're not at the table. So welcome aboard the table you're not at. Okay, go right ahead.
Okay. Item 1 is for the test division. It is a contract with MDOT SHA data validation service and highway performance monitoring system. The awarded contractors Whitney, Bailey, Cox, and Magnany LLC. The amount of the contract is $284,115.20. The MBE goal on the project is 59.8%.
I see that that it was done on a short list. How is it that the vendor, in particular, this vendor was chosen?
I think that's right. I think we can just do it on
The short list, what happened is they go to the short list and ask the contractor to give a price because the short list vendor already hold the contract.
Okay. All right then. So we don't need a motion on this one.
No, Judge, we do need a motion, but Ms. Heller just had a question before a motion was made.
So how did they get on the short list?
It was a previous solicitation where we go out and advertise the solicitation, and the contractors respond, and the contractors are put on a short list after they've been approved.
We have them in every area.
So it's from an RFP.
And do you refresh this so people can get on
Every
it?
5 years, I believe, is the general time?
Yes, it generally lasts for a 5-year period, and then we go back out.
Are some 3? Are
I
some
didn't
3
hear the
years?
question.
Are some refreshed every 3 years, or are they all refreshed every 5?
They all are at 5 years.
They're all right, 5, okay. Thank you.
Because they have renewal options.
Okay.
Move.
Treasurer Kopp has moved for approval. Secretary Neal has seconded.
Anyone have any questions, any further questions? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand, state your name. Fred Smoking.
with,
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, approved. I'm sorry I couldn't quite hear. It's a little hard for me to hear at the very end of the table. I'm apologizing for not being able to hear everything that's going ahead there. I wish I were there with you, but I couldn't get to it in time. So this.
No worries, Judge. We'll keep updating you.
Thank you very much. I think next time if we do this, I'm going to give you a red flag to wave. So Either that or the green one, either one, depending, red or green. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I think we go on to the, to the next one, Ms. Cosby.
Okay, item 2 is for the Environmental Operations Unit. It is the Harford County Solid Waste Management Service. This is a pavement replacement section. This is a cooperative agreement with Harford County. The contractor is American Asphalt. The amount is $429,805.31. The contractor is a small business enterprise.
Regarding this. Hearing none, we'll take a motion. Does anybody wish to make a motion on this?
With,
Seconded. Any questions? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. State your name.
with,
Approved. Next. That's a pretty one.
Okay, this contract is for item 3, environmental ops also. This is for the purchase of the leaf grow bags. This is the option 3, the third and final option of this contract. The amount of the option year is $138,628.95, bringing the revised total contract amount to $1,114,928.95. The contractor is with Pro Ampac Holding LLC.
Questions as to this matter? Hearing none, I'll make a motion. Move to,
Treasurer Kopp, second.
all right. Any discussion, any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. State your name.
with,
Any opposed? Hearing none, this motion.
Ford's product.
All right, next.
Okay. Item 4 is also for the test division. This is a change order to an existing contract. The contractor is Concrete General, Inc. The amount of the change order is $1,300,000, bringing the total revised contract amount to $2,118,545.08.
I have a question on this. So this has gotten bigger over time because of just what has happened in this area of 495.
Yes, Judge Smokin, I actually, whenever we have a rain event and I commute to work, I pass all of that water on the side of the road. The other day, what was it, last week we had whenever we had the last storm, my mind is, I passed that water that you see on the edge there that's supposed to be not there. It actually comes all the way to that white line, the edge of the road. So this project is actually to assist. We manage the contractor that cleans all of the catch basins along in it's District 3 in Prince George's and Montgomery County. And that's a major problem right now with sediment and debris in the catch basins, leading to flooding of the highway, which would lead to hydroplaning and accidents. So we do the work for our environmental perspective, but we manage the contractors that clear this to save loss of life and protect the environment.
Okay, fine. I think it certainly is a good thing for the taxpayers and the people that run on 495, which are about 20 million a day. So I can understand that. We don't want them to get too watery. All right. Any other questions regarding this?
I have a question. If it takes too long, I'll take it offline. But when we do this, obviously the problem's going to get worse and worse unless we do something structurally different. Are we looking at
something that, well, the format of it, well, yes, you know it as a traffic relief plan, just, but it's, so all of those culverts,
But those,
you know.
then no blunt.
I know, that's why,
That's
let's take that offline.
Yeah.
But yes, they need to increase the size of just as it's current.
Yeah.
The road needs to be reconstructed, and the cash basins need to be enhanced.
It needs to be
So,
maintained too.
and
Yeah.
we do the main.
Okay, Ms. Heller, did you have a question?
I think my question really has more to do with process than this particular item. Obviously, this is a very large amount of a change order. I assume change orders of this magnitude have to go to the Board of Public Works, correct?
But
No,
this
no,
is,
because
yeah.
this is
This
an
is for
agreement
the
between
government.
state highways and MES.
Oh,
That's the funding.
Did you hear Mr. Coleman?
I think so.
This is, the funding source for this agreement, for this procurement contract, is an intergovernmental agreement between MES and state highway administration. So that does not have to go to the Board of Public Works for approval.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Most of the state highway administration projects do not go to the Board of Public Works either. So this could go on forever.
Your last check.
But do we get to a point with a contract like this where it becomes, I think this is the question, incumbent upon us to rebid essentially? Although if it's in a pool that we.
Well, yes, so that's where it's from our Amy short. Is this an Amy short? No. So this was bid.
Oh, okay.
This was bid when it was originally bid, so this, because of MDOT, it won't go past 5 years. That's the length, the longest length of a awarded contract. It will be rebid. Yes.
Mr. Witt, did you have a question?
I would move in favor.
I'll second it.
Treasurer Kopp moved, Secretary Neal seconded.
All right, any questions?
My turn.
Those in favor, please raise your hand, state your name, and raise your hand.
Kelly?
One other comment before we move. This also this work was cut back last year when State Highway had issues with response to COVID. So one reason for its size is because it was drastically cut back. Support to tests was drastically cut back last year by SHA.
Didn't stop raining.
No.
It did not stop
Yeah,
raining.
they couldn't stop that.
Okay, stop dropping for a minute.
Anyone else? All right, thank you, sir. Next matter.
They had budget cuts.
I think
Item 5 is the purchase of equipment for the Midshore 2 project, Midshore 2, I'm sorry. The contractor is Carter Machinery Company. It's one of the intergovernment cooperative purchasing contractors. The delivery time on this is 3 to 4 months. The cost is $304,069.
I'm going to abstain from this since this is Kent County's landfill.
Anyone else have any questions on this matter? All right. Do we hear a motion?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Tanner.
Second.
There you go. Quick.
Any questions? All right. All those in favor, please raise your hand, state your name. It's Malcolm.
Witt.
And we noted that Ms. Heller abstained. All right. Next. Ms. Gillespie, next.
Okay. Item 6 is a change order to the Sandy Hill Landfill Capital Improvement Project. This is from our AE shortlist. The contractor is EA Engineering Science and Technology, Inc. The amount of this change order is $169,591.13, bringing the total revised contract amount to $400,956.28 with a 20% MBE goal.
I've got one question on this myself. Is this going to be something that's getting bigger and bigger and bigger all the time, or is this sort of pond 2, pond 3, and that'll be the end of it? I mean, how big are they going to dig it?
Mr. Ford is in the room. I don't know if he has an answer to that question.
I would need to get back to you on the specifics of the project. This is coming to us through the Prince George's County Capital Improvement plan that they had, a longstanding plan that they have in place. We this year assumed the responsibility for managing those capital plans for the county. I don't anticipate this would be something that would be continuing improvement. Full landfill, consent decree with MDE. This is something the act to take.
Did you hear that, Judge Falcon?
Not well, no. If you could help.
Okay. I can summarize for you and make sure that it's recorded.
Right.
This is a part of the support that Environmental Ops is giving to the Prince George's County Capital Program in solid waste. And this is an improvement based on a consent decree the county has to improve this stormwater device and meet the standards of the state. So Mr. Ford doesn't anticipate this particular location being improved. And usually these are improved and they're supposed to be good for 20 to 30 years. Climate change could change that, but that's his assumption right now.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Anyone else have any questions?
We have one more question.
I have one more question. The MBE participation, do we anticipate that it will in fact be 26%?
Yes, when we move these contracts forward, they have to identify their subcontractors, revenue subcontractors,
Okay,
prior to contract.
but it just says 26% actual achieved to date, 0.
So they haven't started with it, so we haven't spent any money.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Anyone wish to make a motion on this matter?
Move approval.
Move Bobby Neal.
Second.
Seconded. Any other matters to be asked about? I don't think so. Therefore, we'll take a motion. All those in favor, please raise your hand, state your name.
Keller.
Opposed?
Okay, item 7 is for resurfacing and asphalt pavement at the Brown Station Road landfill. The contractor is the American Asphalt Paving Company, LLC. The amount of the contract is $757,222. And the MBE goal on this project is 7%. This is for the Environmental Ops Group.
Just out of my curiosity, how far is it going for $700,000?
All the way.
Long lane. I don't know the specific length, but it's a long entranceway to landfill.
It's a long entranceway into the landfill, but it's not 20 miles of road.
No.
It's a couple miles?
Not a couple miles, probably a good mile.
Probably a mile, approximately.
Maybe more.
I suppose that's the motion. All right. Any other questions on this? All right. Hearing none, any motions? I'll move it. Any second?
I'll second.
Matters to be discussed. Hearing none, we'll take anyone who is in favor, please raise your hand, state your name. Fred Smolkin.
Witt.
Keller.
Next. except for this. These are the ones that are under $200,000. We'll have a little chance to take a look at them at this time. Anybody see any problems or?
$350,000 for a ladder.
What was the question?
Water tower.
For the water tower. It's for the water tower. Thank
A
you.
ladder for the water tower. Can we get a rope ladder?
I think the ladder's 26,000.
Oh.
Yeah, the whole project was 350.
Oh,
The ladder,
okay.
It's inside the tank.
Oh.
I had questions about this too.
I think this one needs to be approved by us. Anything else
It's
before
just for
we-
notification.
All right. Anything else? Anything else for Ms. Crosby? All right, let's see where we are as to the next matter. Mr. Coleman, I believe you're next on the legal report, sir.
I do have one matter for the board to discuss with you that will be in part of the closed session.
All right, therefore we will get to that in just a moment or two. The next matter is any new business other than what Mr. Coleman has discussed?
I missed one thing that I'd like to add for new business, and that is announced that in FY21, the MBE program came in at 32%, which was in excess of the state goal of 29%. And I just wanted to make sure that I tip my hat to Ms. Crosby and to our other Tim Barnes, the MBE director. So just so you know.
I think we're all impressed by that, and it's terrific. Another wonderful part of MES that we have seen.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Could I? And I think we might have dealt with this at the last meeting. I'm just refreshing my recollection about the report that is due that we are each being interviewed about. And I think looking at the questions, they're the questions that were in the law. But most of us were not here and really don't have much of value that we can say. And what I can't recall is whether someone suggested that perhaps it could be an interim report and talk to the General Assembly and the people who sponsored this to have them consider changing it to having a report next year, since this is an ongoing process, when it might be more meaningful. I mean, I won't be here, but it seems to me that there are questions worth asking, but the answers may not at this point be much worth considering. That's an extreme way of putting it. But, and if so, I would be happy to talk to those people about it. Or perhaps even your member.
So I haven't broached the subject with Senator McCray or Delegate Corman, and the update that we've given them is that we're meeting everything. That board assessment is every 5 years, so
Yeah.
I think it's actually a very valuable thing to suggest to them, but we've got them under contract now, and we do have
Well, I'm not suggesting not having a report.
A report, okay.
Yeah. But just to understand it's interim and it's, any conclusion would
Sure.
be tentative.
Sort of truncated.
Yeah.
I'd be happy, I would be happy to support,
Yeah, I mean, they may think otherwise, but
Sure.
I think it's worth.
yeah.
Well, we're doing it, so, we'll just submit it, and then maybe we can do it with the suggestion that, for your sense, might make more sense.
Instead of waiting for the 5.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
instead of waiting for the 5, do it,
Right.
do it, sort of midterm where there's enough, valuable. 85.
I think it's pretty clear that when the General Assembly put this together, they saw two perspectives. One was, in this short period of time, what has changed? What's the assessment? They're not looking for us to be 100% or 99% perfect on everything. So that is going to be our milestone. But then the long period of time, the 5 years, is to see what has happened over that period of time and how the General Assembly's work has changed in terms of what we do under the statutory changes, which are significant and important. So I don't think they're going to, when we go down there in January, and actually we send it by December 31st, but I don't think they're going to think that we've got everything in the world in the barrel. We're finding the barrel and we're putting it in, and I think that's the way we're going to look at it. But I'm looking at two people who know exactly what happens in the General Assembly, so maybe I'm wrong about that. But
no, I don't think you're wrong about that. But I think maybe it's a question of being cautionary and saying, you understand that these responses are based on the board meeting 3 times or 4 times, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know.
Dr. Glass, you have any questions, anything to put that on the board? Or?
I'll definitely bring that to Senator Cray and Delegate Corman's attention as a
so
point.
that when they then look at it, or their public statement, it's within that frame.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think we'll proceed on, and let's see here. So let me see if do we have anything else then coming up other than a new business of the closed session? Anything else? All right, the next thing's, anything else before we go on?
No, sir, just moving to close the session.
All right, we have put up there our proposed 2022 meeting schedules. I think everybody just at this moment can just take a look at it and perhaps get a picture of it. I think we all will be getting that among us, so we'll have that to look at. And if you see any kind of potential scheduling issues, just let us know, let someone know, and the clerk will take care of that and we'll discuss it. But we do have a while before this all comes up. And I think our next meeting is on the November the 18th at 9:30 a.m. as usual. But we're going to be a little higher up because the turkey will not be, we'll be eating the turkey instead of watching each other. So we're obviously going to have to change that. We're on November the 18th at 9:30. All right. Anything else before we proceed? We're going to proceed in closed session. So the board intends to meet in closed session for the following reasons as permitted under section 305B of the general article of the annotated code of Maryland. And that is to discuss the performance and compensation of an employee of the service. Are there any members of the board who objects to this in closed session? All right, there are none that I hear or see. Does anyone else viewing the meeting object? If anyone viewing the meeting objects to the board meeting in closed session, if they have the objection, they should contact MES through its website at www.menb.com. Is there now a motion for the board to meet in closed session for the purposes stated?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Tanner.
All right.
Moved by Secretary Neal, seconded by Director Tanner.
All right, any questions? All right, all those in favor, state your name, raise aye, or raise your name, state aye. There's been a second, there's been a vote to close, and following the vote, while still in open session, there will be an announcement of the board meeting will adjourn after the closed session and will not return to open session. All right, then I believe we will be put into the appropriate places. Is that right?
Yeah, actually,
You're on what?
Casey and Jana, I don't seem to